It is fantastic the work that the MasterCard Foundation does to provide resources to foster growth and prosperity within African communities. I personally am blown away by the 14 scholars that are here at Wellesley College. And I am confident that these young women and all of the MasterCard Foundation scholars will impact their home countries as well as globally in their respective fields. I am sure that their reach will be limitless, which leads us to our next session. It is titled Limitless Limitations. Our moderator for this session is Kellie Carter Jackson, Assistant Professor in the African Studies Department at Wellesley College. Please welcome Professor Carter Johnson.
I am so happy to be with you this morning to introduce our next speaker, who is quite the accomplished woman. And so without further ado, I want to give you some information about her so you know a little bit more about her. Farida Bedwei is a seasoned software engineer with over 18 years experience in building mobile and enterprise applications with extensive knowledge in architecture and deploying mobile value-added services and banking applications in the microfinance industry. Bedwei began her career at Soft Company Limited, now known as the Soft Tribe, as a software developer and moved from there to the Rancourt Solutions Limited. At Rancourt Solutions, where she worked there from 2001 to 2010, she progressed to the position of solutions analyst to senior software architect. At Rancourt Solutions, she was responsible for the development and maintenance of the mobility platform, which connected mobile networks to content providers. She has in-depth knowledge about the technical architecture of the mobile network and messaging gateways and the associated protocols. Part of her achievements at Rancourt Solutions include the development of a content management system for the Commission of Human Rights and the Administrative Justice and Pay Bureau, an enterprise web-based payroll application for KPMG Accra to facilitate simultaneous management of payroll services of different companies. Since April 2011, Bedwei has been the Chief Technology Officer of Logiciel in Ghana Limited, a technological solutions company that she co-founded with the primary focus of building mobile and financial software for the West African market. Her key achievement has been the successful implementation of Zigloy, a web-based clouded banking software suite for the microfinance industry, designed to be accessible on mobile phones and tablets, as well as on desktop systems used by over 180 microfinance institutions nationwide. Bedwei is also the winner of the Legacy and Legacy Ideas Award in 2011, the Government of Ghana's National Youth Achievers Award, the Special Award in 2012 and 2013. She was named the most influential woman in business and government in Africa for the financial sector of CEO's Magazine of South Africa. Without further ado, Farida Bedwei.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a great honor to be sitting in front of you guys. I've interacted with a lot of you over the past 2 days, and I'm really amazed at what you guys are doing. And you guys are going to take Africa to the next level. And I will hold each and every one of you responsible for that. So pick up the mantle and do better than we did when it was our turn. Okay, so my story. I always say that I've told my story over and over and over again, that right now it's no longer interesting, because all you have to do is to Google me and you get my whole story online. But okay, I'll try and give you the abridged version of it. Usually when I tell my story, people come and tell me that, oh, they send all kinds of lovely messages to my mother. fortunately for you guys, she's here now, so you can tell her the message yourself. So I will no longer be the messenger in this regard. Anyway, so usually my sessions are interactive because I don't believe in talking, and you guys not talking back, especially since you also get the opportunity to ask me questions after. So I will also use this opportunity to ask you a few questions. That's fair, right? I mean, it has to be fair. Any Nigerians in the house? Yeah. Our jollof is still nicer than yours, no matter what you say. So yeah, I was actually born in Nigeria, and I left Nigeria at the age of 1. Otherwise, I would have been under the misconception that your jollof is nicer than ours. But luckily for me, I didn't spend much time eating Nigerian jollof. So I have a healthy appreciation for Ghanaian jollof, which is still the best, no matter what you say. So yeah, I was born in Lagos in 1979. We moved to the Caribbean. Stayed there for about 4 years, moved to the UK, went to the Comoros Island, came back to the Caribbean for another 2 years, then finally moved to Ghana in 1988. And what a culture shock it was for me, because I've never really been to Africa before that. And at the age of 9, it was a very interesting experience, because for once I had relatives, I had cousins, I had grandparents, I had aunties and uncles. And no matter what, you cannot take away the family setting that we have, which we should all appreciate. Because at the end of the day, it builds us up and it makes us who we are. And it's very relevant to especially when we are talking about progress and getting things right in Africa, because it's inherent in who we are and what we are. So I remember telling my mom that I don't want to leave. I love it here. I mean, I had cousins. I had all these male relatives who used to come and take us out and all those things. And luckily for us, we stayed, and we've been there ever since. And I was homeschooled by my mother until I was 11, 12 years old. And at the age of 5, I started using a manual typewriter. How many of you have seen a manual typewriter? Okay, everybody over the age of 40 has seen a manual typewriter. Yeah. Okay. A manual typewriter is a typewriter that is very difficult to use, because you have to use energy to push it. And if you make a mistake, you have to tear the paper away and start all over again. There was no delete button. So I started using the manual typewriter because I could not write legibly. It was a way of me doing my schoolwork and all. And sometimes, I always say that sometimes in life, when you come across these situations, whatever it may be, you have to find other ways of making it work. Just because you cannot write, it doesn't mean you cannot communicate. So you find other ways of making it work, and because you just have to. And so I started using the manual typewriter. Then at the age of 11, I went and did a computer course at the Computer Training Institute. I was the youngest in the class. My mom will tell you that a few weeks after the first lesson, after I started going there, the proprietor of the institution came and confessed to her that when they brought me into the classroom, my classmates were all wondering why I was there with them. They were grumbling because they thought that I would hold the class back. But then in the end, I rather ended up teaching them. And so that was my first foray into the world of computing. I excelled in it. I loved it. It was like it came very easily to me. Now, after that, my mom was like, you have to go to school now. You have to go to regular school. You have to have friends of your own. I mean, you have to know how to live in the social setting. So we looked around and we found one school in a very poor part of Ghana. The Ghanaians here will understand when I say College or no. It's a really poor part of Ghana, but that was the only school that would take me. We tried the international schools and all those things, and nobody would give me the opportunity. But that school gave me the opportunity. And I always say that it doesn't matter where you go to school. What matters is how you take what you have learned from school and apply it to your life. So you may go to school in the poorest region of your country, but at the end of the day, if your grades are good, you'll all end up in the same university. Because at the university level, it's not a question of who has money or not. It's a question of grades. So if some of you went to school in the slum or whatever, it doesn't matter. Because I went to school in the slum, and I'm sitting in front of you today and talking to you. So after that, I wrote the BC. The BCE is a West African exam that you write to go from junior high school to senior high school. I excelled in it, but the schools in Ghana are not disability friendly. I don't know about the rest of the African countries where you guys come from, but I'm sure most of them are not. And it became a bit of a challenge for me to navigate the compound if I had gone to a regular school. So it was decided that I would go and do my diploma in IT after junior high school. Once again, I was the youngest in the class because at the age of 16, nobody was doing a diploma in IT. All my classmates were either those who have finished school and were going to university, or those who had finished university and were doing a professional course. But I went to it. I did not let my age or anything intimidate me. And sometimes, I mean, like I always say, at the end of the day, all that matters is that you know what you want and you are focused on it, and you don't let the circumstances determine what you will be. It's very important, because if I had said that, oh, I'm the youngest in the class, I'm afraid, I'm intimidated, I'll be alone, nobody would want to be my friend or anything like that, I certainly wouldn't have had the guts to go to that school and finish my diploma. So I did the diploma, and after that, I said to myself, I wanted to find a job. Now, there were no expectations of me. I mean, nobody expected me to even get a job and start working. But I had certain expectations of myself. And I knew what I wanted, and I was determined to do what I had to do to get what I wanted for my life. So I went and I worked for a computer training institute for 1 year. Then after 1 year, while I was working, I was doing a higher diploma. And by then, I had decided which part of IT I wanted to specialize in. So and that was software development. I love the creativity of it. I love the idea that I could be creative. And nobody sees it as a creative art, as it is, because you are creating something. It is your ideas that you are putting together into a program for people to use. So it's a creative art that I could do because the computer allowed me to do it. And for me, that was the biggest triumph of my life. Because for once, my disability did not prevent me from doing what I wanted to do. So I looked around the country, did a bit of research, and found the top 3 software companies in the country. And I zeroed in on one. And I said to myself, I want to work there. And so one day, I went to the office. I did not have an appointment or anything. I just walked into the office. And I told the head of the technical department, his name is Herman Tunihasi, that I want to work with him. And I have no experience, but I have this diploma, but if you give me the opportunity, I promise you that you never regret it. And he gave me the opportunity. And that is how I started my career as a software developer. And for me, up to now, I don't know where I got the guts to walk into his office and ask for a job from, because there was no job advertised. But I knew at that age that that's what I wanted to do. And I mean, when you think about it, what is the worst that can happen? All we could have said was no. And I realized that as women, as men, as whatever, we lose out on opportunities because we are afraid of the word no. But when you think about it, no doesn't kill you. So they say no. You find out why they say no, and you go back, revise your plan, and come back and try again. Luckily for me, they said yes. So I got the job. And I worked there for 3 years. Then I needed a change. And I looked around again and found another company which was doing what I wanted to do. They have started in the mobile space. This was 2001. The mobile enterprise space was just starting out. It was an exciting area to be in. I wanted to be part of that revolution. So I got in touch with them, and I was hired. It was actually a startup, and I was their 3rd employee. And I started out with them. Their name is Rankite Solutions. And one thing about all these companies was that they did not see my disability as a barrier. Because I was able to convince them through my speech, through my actions, that I had the skills. And that is something that most women are unable to do because we are intimidated. But as I said, what's the worst that can happen? No. So I worked with them for a total of 9 years. But in between, I left and I went to the university and came back and got my job back and worked with them for another 5 years. Then, they're getting to the end of my tenure with them. I got bored again. Sometimes getting bored is a good thing because it forces you to take certain actions, to do certain things that can transform your life. And what I did really transformed my life. One day I was withdrawing money at an ATM. Now, Ghana is a very religious country, and so people will see you and come up to you and want to pray for you because of your disability. And sometimes I just get irritated and I tell them that there's nothing wrong with me, I'm all right. But this time around, something in me just snapped, and I said, okay, it's about time we started changing the perception of people with disabilities in this country. So I'm going to write a book. So I wrote a book. Now, when I wrote, it took 2 years to write the book. The book is called The Definition of a Miracle. It's loosely based on some of the experiences that I had as a child growing up in Ghana. Although it's fiction, I fictionalized some of my experiences. And after writing the book, I had to promote the book. And I was invited onto the air of one of our topmost talk show hosts in Ghana. And there's actually me and my mom and another doctor who was a neurologist. They were talking about cerebral palsy, which is what I have, by the way. How many of you know what cerebral palsy is? Can you please tell us what it is?
I don't think I can scientifically explain what exactly it is, but I know it has to do with neural firings that are just, I'm not sure exactly how it affects, but I know it doesn't really affect the intelligence of a person. It doesn't affect how basically it doesn't affect the intelligence of a person. It has to do with how it affects the neural motor skills, and that's, I think, the most that I understand.
Yeah, that's very good. Cerebral palsy is actually a brain damage to the motor development of the patient. So it affects the motor skills. It affects the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you move and everything. And there are no two cases which are exactly the same. Some people are better than me, some people are worse than me. Yeah. So there was this, like I was saying, this talk show host invited me onto his program with my mom and this neurologist. And at the time, I had about 400 friends on Facebook. By the time the show was aired, I had over 1,500 friends on Facebook, and I was shocked because I suddenly became a public figure just by that interview, because people were like, I have changed their lives, I have changed their perceptions and all that stuff. And for me, I do it so that another child with a disability will get the chance in life, because in Africa, we have this stigma about disability. And that is how I became an activist, because through the book I started getting this various calls for interviews and all that. And it changed my life. I had to evolve. I had to learn how to not shy away from the public light, because I used to be a very shy, introverted person. If you ask me to come and sit in front of you and talk, I would break out in hives, because it's just not me. So that is how I became an activist. And up to now, I still do it. I still go on various platforms, talk about the ills that are done to people with disabilities, recommend various forms of communication on disability issues and all that. And I started my company with my partner in 2011. What happened was I was working with him at a microfinance company, and I developed a solution for them. And they said that it was so efficient that other microfinance companies wanted it. So we saw a business opportunity, and we decided to leave the microfinance company and set up our own company so that we could sell the solution to other microfinance companies. And to date, we have over 250 microfinance companies in Ghana using the solution to run their whole banking application. We did it as a way of promoting financial inclusion. Because these microfinance companies are the banks for the informal sector. So if they are empowered technologically, they'll be able to render better services to the informal sector. So that is the whole thing about my company. And for me, it is a joy to get up in the morning and know that what you are doing is making a difference, because I have seen it in action that because of my solution, 500 women in the northern part of Ghana are getting loans because suddenly the microfinance company finds it easier to process loans for them. And that is what gives me joy and satisfaction. In Africa, we have a lot of problems. But so I always say it's the best place to be because there are so many opportunities. And you have to find a problem and solve it. When you solve the problem, you make money. Do not chase the money. So solve the problem first, then you make the money. And solve the problem holistically. Don't solve the problem thinking that you know what the problem is without talking to the people who you are solving the problem for. And that is a mistake that we make because we have our own perception of the problem. We haven't gone into the community to communicate with them and ask them that, is this what you think your problem is or how do you think we should solve it? You have to involve the stakeholders. Otherwise, nobody will you end up having the best solution in the world, but nobody will buy into it. And users can make or break your system. So it's very important to do that. Now, before I end, I like to say that for me, when people say that, oh, this person is the Bill Gates of Africa or the Mark Zuckerberg of Africa, I don't find it a compliment. Because I think Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates are great people, but they do not live in our environment and do not understand our problems. I'd rather be called the Farida Bedwei of Ghana than be called the Mark Zuckerberg of Africa. Because I know what our problems are and I'm trying to solve them. So find your own voice, find your own niche market, and find a way of solving the problem. Then Africa will rise. Because our problem is that we are trying to take solutions from the West, which do not work for us. I mean, we've been trying that for the past 100 years, and the fact that we are where we are should tell us that it's not working. It's about time we change the whole thing. And we found ways and means of solving our own problems our own way. And stop trying to look at what is happening in the developed world, because we are not in the developed world. And until we realize that, we will continue going around and around in circles. So please, look in your communities. Look at the social setting, the cultural setting, and see how you can solve the problem with those two things in mind. Because no matter what you may say or think, those things will either make or break you. Okay? Thank you very much. Can you open it for me?
Farida, thank you so much for your talk. This was short and sweet, but really inspiring. And there are a lot of things that I took away from your talk, which is one, you never resign yourself to boredom. whenever you get bored, you're like, all right, we're moving on. This is the lesson that I've learned. But also seeing problems as opportunities. I think so many times we see barriers that we confront in our personal lives or in our professional lives, and we don't see them as opportunities to improve upon what it is that we're facing, to overcome what it is that we're facing. And so in every moment in your life, particularly in your career, you've seen either a barrier or a problem and you've addressed it. And you've addressed it holistically, not just within a small aspect of the problem, but looking at the whole problem in its entirety. And I think there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from that. And I can see how being raised in Africa has been transformative on your understanding, transformative on how you see the world, transformative in terms of how you engage other people in the world. And we want to open it up for questions, but one of the things that I wanted to ask you is that, do you find that when you encounter other people, are they more likely to ask you about how you overcome barriers or problems in your career or in the workforce or in computer engineering? Or are they more likely to ask you about how you overcome barriers in your own disability? What do you find most people are ask you or are interested in?
Well, mostly it is the disability, because they see me and that is the first thing they see. But I mean, if you do not know me and I'm not dealing with you via email or something like that, you have no idea that I'm disabled. Which reminds me, one of the awards that I won, which I always say I hold highest among all the awards, was the CEO award, because they had no idea I was disabled. They gave it to me purely on the work that I had done.
Wow.
And for me, that is what we want. We want to be able to compete equitably. We do not want preferential treatment. We just want a level playing ground so that we can compete equitably. And I'm sure anybody with a disability will agree with me. Because nobody wants to feel as if they are being favored or they are being given concessions because of something that they have no control over.
Do you feel, or what do you feel has been the most motivating factor for you in overcoming obstacles? It seems like your mom played a huge role in your life and that you sort of never questioned your ability to be able to accomplish something with your mind. What do you think has been the biggest motivator for you? And are naysayers motivators in some ways?
Well, for me, I mean, from a very early age, my mother used to tell me that we are moving the words I cannot from my vocabulary. And we are replacing them with the words I will try. So for me, that has been my mantra throughout my whole life. Whenever I encounter something, I say, okay, let me try it. If it works, fine. If it doesn't work, no harm done. I mean, and like I keep saying, when there are no expectations of you, it makes it easier for you to perform, because nobody is going to look at you and say that, oh, it's thought she failed or she didn't do well or something like that. Because nobody really expects you to do well. So when you excel, they are rather surprised. Yeah.
Are you aware of other opportunities to bring funding to schools with students who have disabilities? So you talked as well about how the school that you went to in Ghana was the only school that you were able to attend. And several years ago, I was in the Gambia, and we went to a school for children with special needs. But it was the only school in the entire country that was made available for students. Are there other opportunities or networks out there that are working to create more resources and more access for students with disabilities and children with disabilities?
Well, actually, in Ghana, we have an all-inclusive policy, but it's not being implemented. Basically, the children with disabilities are supposed to be allowed to go into the schools, the public schools, but when they take the child, the headmistress and the headmaster refuse to accept the child. So we have it on paper, but the implementation is a different ballgame altogether. We have the special schools, all right, but most of the children with a disability, they do not belong in special schools. They belong in regular schools. All that is needed is for accessibility to be made available in the schools. Put a disabled toilet there. Put a ramp there so that a child with a wheelchair can access the facility. But that is taking, I mean, we passed the disability bill way back in 2006. Up to now, we are still fighting with them over the implementation of the bill. It's a matter of priorities.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you also a technical question, since you deal with the mobile industry. And it's funny because I remember getting my first cell phone in college. It was a flip phone. and I had like a certain amount of minutes per week and a certain amount of minutes per weekend. And I think so much about how much technology has I mean, it's just warp speed in terms of what we do with cell phones now. Where do you see sort of the next horizon for cell phones? Where do you think the technology will go? And what do you think is some of the most innovative technology that's out there now?
The thing with technology is that if it goes too fast and the masses are not ready for it, it will not be used. And that is the challenge we have in Ghana, because although we have a very high mobile phone penetration rate, most of them are just using it to make calls and forward pictures on WhatsApp. It goes with the literacy rate, and I always say that you cannot expect to be able to render mobile services with high volume when you have such a high illiteracy rate. So I also always say that we should think about educating people, educating the masses. That is the only way we'll be able to develop technologically, and as well as a nation. Because we have all these great platforms, we have all these great apps developed by really innovative people in Ghana. But the margin of people who are using it is really small. Because all the people have the smartphones, they do not have the skill to be able to operate them, to do most of the things that they are used to do.
That's a really good point. It brings me to one more question, then I want to open it up for the audience. You said something that I thought was really interesting, was that a lot of times we see STEM and the humanities as two separate entities. So you're either into the sciences or you're into the arts and history or something like that. But you talked about technology being a creative art, that you have to be creative with it. I think that's one of the first times I've looked at technology or heard it phrased in that way, in which technology requires creativity, requires the arts in order to being able to understand it more. Could you expound on that just a little bit more, and how you think the arts play, or creativity plays a role in innovation and technology?
Well, obviously, if you are coming up with a solution, you have to think about how it's going to work. You have to put the pieces together. You have to think about the interface, the user interface. How will the users accept it? Is this something that somebody with a junior high school diploma can use? And all those things. And you have to be able to formulate the idea and translate it into a program. And that takes creativity. And for me, which brings me back to another point. When they say STEM is too difficult for women and programming is too difficult for women, I'm like, what are you talking about? The first programmer was a woman. So, and I don't get it why suddenly it had become a male-dominated area. Because we were the ones who started programming. And I always say that, look, all the professions in the world, apart from maybe domestic staff, we are once all male-dominated. So why is it so difficult for us to break into the area of STEM?
That's a really good point. It's a really good point. Thank you so much, Farida. We want to open it up to the audience. Does the audience have any questions to ask? We have about 5 minutes, so we can take about 1 or 2 questions. I see one hand in the back, and then a hand right here, and a hand right here. And I see you in the center, too.
You want to go first? Hi. Sorry. My name is Barbara Nasila, and I'm a student at UC Berkeley, and your story is very inspiring, and I think it's important for us to really, for most architects, I'm an architecture student, to think about accessibility and inclusivity in how we design. But my question is actually about STEM and how, as most girls, even right now, there's very few girls doing computer science in my college, and I'm curious, what are the different systems you grew up with, or what are the different ways in your experience that you felt encouraged you to pursue computer science as a possibility? Because like you said, most girls don't see it as like a career path that is for them. And like personally, you said your mother had a big influence. And how else do you think women around in Africa, in Kenya, in wherever you come from, can be encouraged to pursue these careers that seem very male-dominated?
Incidentally, about 15 years ago, I was at this forum, and this female MC was there, and we were talking about this topic, and she was like we should change the language of it to make it easier for women. And I was like, are you trying to say that women are not as intelligent as men? Of course, she didn't take it kindly. But then those were my exact words. And we ended up exchanging words at the forum, because I felt very insulted on our behalf that you feel as if we are not intelligent enough to be able to understand it the way it is. I think it's a matter of interest. And the fact that we have to realize that it's not difficult. I mean, it's just logic. That is all. A plus B is equal to C. A plus B will always be equal to C. And I find it's even easier than the art, because the art is subjective to somebody's understanding of what you are put down. But when it comes to STEM, it is the question is, does it work or not? So I think that with all the various programs and interventions that have come up about getting women involved in STEM, which by the way, we didn't have during our period. I always say that you guys are so lucky, because during our period, we didn't have any of those things. We went into STEM because we wanted to go into STEM, and we enjoyed it. So I would encourage all of you to put that misconception of it being difficult aside. We are equally wired to be programmers and mathematicians and engineers and whatever as the men are.
I saw a hand over here. Okay. Oh, 1 minute left, so we'll do 2 questions if we can very quickly, right here. Oh. And then I saw the woman in the back, you had your hand up for a while.
Okay. Hi, Farida. My name is Emma, and I'm studying engineering in the University of British Columbia, and your story is really inspiring. But my question for you, still on the line of motivation, is engineering is a field that is like male-dominated, as you said, and willingly and unwillingly, this field reminds us that we are women, and being women of color, it makes things even difficult for us. So how did you keep your self-esteem intact when all this was happening? Like, I want to know was the most difficult experience for you when people considered you couldn't do things because you were a woman of color, and how did you keep your self-esteem intact and keep yourself motivated? Thank you.
And the fact that I do not let what other people think about me dictate what I do. And that is one thing that we should all realize. Because at the end of the day, it's just you. And because I did not do that, I did not care what other people think about me. The most important thing for me is that I have delivered the product. Is it working? Yes or no? If it's not working, let me fix it. If it's working, let's move on with it. Yeah.
We'll do one more question right here, Ms. Sina.
Okay. Hello. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It's really touching and inspiring. So I'm kind of looking at it in the political side. So you're from Ghana, and we know the laws are there, but like schools are not admitting students that have disabilities, and I can kind of relate that to Uganda. Like, we have the laws, but you find them discriminated even though they are enrolled in schools. So how do you think we can encourage and work with our government to maybe enforce and allow students with disabilities to be treated the same in institutions? Thank you.
That is actually a problem that I've been trying to figure out for the past 15 years since I became an activist. I haven't been able to make headway because although we are gradually getting somewhere. It's slow, but it's getting better. I mean, it's far better than it was 15 years ago. At least now we have some shopping malls with disabled parking, which we didn't have like 20 years, 15 years ago. There are some schools which have been persuaded to accept children with disabilities, but not a lot of them. The problem is that the teachers and the head teachers haven't been given the right training to be able to accept those children. So it's kind of a matter of training as well. And I guess we just have to wait for the government to make it a priority for them. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Can we give a round of applause again?